Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Pool Box Pals. I am one of your pals. My name is Monk, and with me, as always, is the ever charming and ever handsome
Oh,
Mark.
stop. Yes, I am Mark, and I'm. I guess I'm. Thank you. Thank you for calling me charming.
I don't know why, but the memory of your wedding just popped in my head, and I will say this with some embarrassment.
Oh, yeah,
Um, I wore shorts to your wedding and
that's fine.
like a suit jacket, and it was probably one of my boldest outfits I think I've ever tried to pull off.
It's a bold
And
move, Cotton.
yeah, so I don't know if anyone is interested in that. I'm sure I can find a picture somewhere and I'll put it up on Instagram or something. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, I am wearing what I consider to be a rather bold outfit to your wedding. What do you think about your wedding? What do you remember about it?
Oh man. I think I don't know. So Kate and I were already married before our
Oh, that's
wedding.
right. I
So
forgot.
so the wedding was just like more of a celebration to bring all of our like friends and family together in one place to do it.
Mhm.
Um, and I remember having a lot of fun, but it was also just so overwhelming for how many
Mm.
people you had to talk to.
Mhm.
And uh, I remember I like remember very like small details. Like I remember you being there, and I remember like Brian and Ashley were there too.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
and then did Brandon Miller make it?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, Brandon was there. So like our old Taiwan crew, like some of
Yeah.
like at least you four came, and then I had a bunch of buddies from the past come, and friends from like here in this town came,
My
uh
goodness.
and then I had a lot of Kate's family to meet for the first time. She had a lot of my family to meet for the first time. So
That sounds like a
it
lot.
was it can be a lot, but I
Yeah.
know it was fun, and you know that you have a successful wedding when people tell you that they had a great time at your wedding. So
Yeah.
by no means do I think the wedding
I
for
had a
us
great
was.
time.
I mean,
I did
yeah,
have a
I don't.
great time.
It was successful, but Kate and I's like memory of it is mostly like
Yeah,
a
and Luke
blur with
well,
glimpses. So, oh yeah,
we can
Luke was
keep
there too.
yeah, I was gonna say, we can keep running down memory lane all gosh darn, uh, all night long, but, you wanna talk about some comics? How about we
Yeah,
get
we're
into
not
some
here to talk
comics?
about my wedding. That happened se- several years ago now.
Yeah.
but um, but yeah, dude, we're here to talk comics, and I
How
actually
do you
got
feel
ended up.
about your pool this week? Do you feel like you got a
Well,
good pool? Last week, I feel like we both had really good pools.
we had yeah, I have a great poll this week.
Oh, nice.
I got four number ones that I'm excited about, all of them. But how about I just let me get into
4
those?
number ones. My
Yeah,
goodness.
I did end up getting more comics than I thought I was getting when I you
Classic
know,
Mark.
no, League of Comic Geeks, like once again I like hit subscribe or like pull the issue number
Mhm.
one for a series instead of pull the series. And
Yeah.
so it wasn't in my list. And so I ended up having nine total instead of six total. Um so that's just the way the cookie keeps crumbling for me, and I'll keep biting it. It's fine. But I'll start off here with everybody knows Mark loves Star Wars, so I got the new Darth Vader. Um,
Ooh.
I do. I still really enjoy Darth Vader. It's still like my top
Well,
two
he's right
favorite Star
behind
Wars
you.
series, and he's right here to my left. Hey,
Wow.
say hi, Vader.
Hi, Vader. Well,
No,
that that
he's
was
just
well, my
I
impression of
didn't.
Darth Vader wasn't as good as your impression as of the Crypt Keeper from last week.
Oh yeah, I
Uh,
don't know. It's hard to do an actual Vader voice without like editing your voice. Oh, that's pretty good. That's pretty
yeah,
good.
rebel
Next,
scum.
I got Mandalorian number three here,
Nice.
which I believe there's six issues of this coming out, so they're kind of consolidating the first series into a six issue story, which is great because I didn't want to have an issue for each episode because
Yes.
it just seems like too much.
Yeah.
Next, I got a number 2. We're getting into my dark horse polls for this week. Got the number 2 of Parasomnia, The Dreaming God. I finally was able to read number 1 over this last week. I don't remember which day. I'm kind of excited for number 2 because it's going to elaborate upon what happened in number 1, which it was kind of confusing at first. Like my first read through, I went back through and like flipped through the pages. I'm like, okay, now it makes sense. But it just kind of like jumps from different place to different place. And I think it's all the same guy, but in like different worlds.
Okay.
That's at least how I'm understanding it. So I'm excited for number 2 to get a little bit more of a grasp on that. And then also from Dark Horse, another Star Wars, the
Okay. This is.
hyperspace stories number 2.
Yep. I was gonna say.
And
Did
then
you read number 1?
I did read number 1, and they're all their own little stories. So it is more of an anthology.
Cool.
And so this one's written by Cecil Castellucci, and the art is by Megan Huang. So this is a female team here writing this one. So
Nice.
I'm excited about it. Then let's move on to I gotta move those ones out of the way. This next one I'm pretty excited about because the author has been in charge of Thor for so long. It's Donny Cates's new from Image. It's called Vanish. I really like the cover.
Yeah, I saw this. This seems like very reminiscent of the 90s.
Yeah. I'm excited to get into that one. It's I mean, Donny Cates, everything I've read of his, which has mostly just been a lot of his Marvel work. He has a great way with like intensifying his characters. Kind of like almost giving them this like kind of daunting like feel about them. Like there's just always bad things happening, but they know that they can handle it, but it's just stressful. At least that's how I feel like he did with Thor. So yeah,
this is still reading Thor.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I haven't gotten an issue in a little while. I was gonna say. I think it might be on a little bit of a break right now.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so then art is done by Ryan Stegman, who he's also does a lot of Marvel. He did Venom and King in Black, that King in Black series that happened. What was that? 2020, 2021 that King in Black happened?
I think it was 21.
Yeah. Which I read some of it. I read some of the one shots included to it, and I went through it on Marvel Unlimited, and it was an exciting series, but I don't know. It wasn't like to the magnitude of like Secret Wars by any means, but
sure.
Yeah. And then this one, this one came out a month ago, but for some reason my shop didn't get it in time. So issue 2 came out today as well. So I finally got issue 1 with issue 2, and it is from Vault Comics. And let me just get my little cheat sheet up here so I don't mess things up. It's called Barbaric.
Okay.
So it's another mythological, but Barbaric was already a series on its own. And this is kind of like a part 2. I'm trying to get my hands on the trade paperback for the first Barbaric before I actually dive into these.
Yeah.
But yeah, the covers here are pretty nice.
I like that second one a lot.
I just like his axe.
It's a pretty dope axe. Is that that's the variant? Which one's the variant?
No, neither of these are the variant.
This
is issue 1, and then this is issue 2.
Yeah, sorry about that.
So yeah, but I'm probably gonna hold on to these until I read the first Barbaric. I'll get into that, and then this last one before I get into my last one. This is from Scout Comics, which I feel like I haven't gotten something from Scout in a little bit.
We both got something from Scout, and I'm real upset that you can go into this, but I'm real upset that I didn't get this one from Scout. It was at my shop, and it looked good, but for some reason I skipped out on it, and now I'm kicking myself. If the author is who I think the author is.
Well, there's the author, but then there's the creator. There's two minds that created this one, and they're both Hollywood directors.
Wow.
Yeah. One of them we all know because he's been in such things as Lord of the Rings and
Ooh.
Planet of the Apes,
Oh
and
my gosh.
he's directed a few things here and there as well. I believe he is the director of this of one of the Venom movies at
Yeah, Let
least.
There Be Carnage.
Yeah, but
And he was in
it's
Black Panther.
Andy Serkis, and he's in Black Panther. Yeah, so Andy
Andy
Serkis,
Serkis.
and then Andrew Levitas. Andrew Levitas is he's actually a professor at NYU,
Okay. Sounds
and
familiar.
I think he's like a professor of like film. So I'm excited to get into this one because usually when you get a creative mind that works in the mediums of movies and TV shows, they can make your comic book very, very cinematic as well. And that's something I enjoy in comic books is when I feel like I'm reading through a movie. Um,
Mm, mhm.
but anyway, I should probably pull it up. It's called Eternus, and
Yeah.
as far as I know, it's Medusa.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. I
Um,
didn't look into it at all, but that's kind of what the cover looks like.
yeah, so that is. Oh, and sorry, Barbaric's written. I don't think I said this. Barbaric is written by Michael Moretti, and the artist is Nathan Gooden. And then for
Yeah, I don't think I
Eternus,
did.
so Andy, and Andrew are the creators of
Mhm.
this comic book series, but they hired out writers, and it's Don Hanfield and Anastasia Davis, and then the artists for it are Andy Owens and Carl Moline. Um, Not familiar with those names, but
No.
I
But
for a lot of Scout stuff, I'm not always familiar with the names.
but I'm so impressed that they got it to be through Scout Comics because in my little world, Scout Comics seems to be like a pretty independent, like pretty like
Yeah,
up and coming. So it's amazing that somehow I wonder if I would just be very curious to see how this got set up.
yeah, where the connections at?
Yeah, exactly.
No,
Who
I
reached out to who?
yeah,
How did the two connections between Scout Comics and Andy Serkis happen? You know?
yeah,
That's
yeah. Because normally, and we're gonna get into this now, but normally you see this with like Boom Studios works with a lot of Hollywood celebrities, and
right.
that brings up my next issue. I got issue 10, and we all know that I'm holding on to this until the series is done. But it's issue 10 of Berserker, which one of the
Nice.
writers is Keanu Reeves. Um, the other writer being Matt Kint, and then the artist is Ron Garney. This series, so I think I've read the first 5 issues, and I'm holding on to, hey, kitty cat,
Yeah, sorry.
meow meow. Um, but yeah, Berserker. I read the first 5 issues. They were super super exciting, but then I also was just like, I don't. I know this one's going to end soon, and I don't want it to end, so I decided to hold back on it. So this one's just going to go on the shelf with the other previous, I guess 3, 4 issues, 6, 7, 8, 9. So the previous 4 issues, and then the last issue is issue 11, which comes out next month.
Jeez.
So I will finally be able to hop on Berserker and see how that one finishes up.
Yeah.
And then last but not least of my pulls, you also got this one.
Yes, sir.
And
Let's see if we got the same cover.
I
Ready?
got, I bet we didn't, but I'd be
Let's
surprised if we did because you're a lot better at getting these variants. The stuff
Yeah.
of nightmares.
Ooh.
Uh, and anybody from the 90s would be excited about this one because it's written by R.L. Stein.
Yeah, and that's so exciting.
Yeah.
I feel the last 3 that you listed were all written by celebrities. So it's very interesting that celebrities are I mean, R.L. Stein is obviously an author, so that's a little bit different, but I couldn't say that I would know of any comic books that he's ever done, but I also wouldn't know. You know, I've never thought to look into that.
Yeah, I've never thought R.L. Stein comics. What has he written?
But this
But
thing looks like it is not for children.
but he has written something else that I have read and is also, I believe it's on Disney Plus as a show.
Interesting.
It's called Just Beyond.
Okay.
Yeah, so that came out in 2019, I believe, and um, but yeah, like when I found out it was a show and my son really wanted to like watch the show, I went ahead and found it online and read it, and I really enjoyed it.
Nice.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to Stuff of Nightmares. I enjoyed what I was able to get my hands on of Goosebumps growing
Mm,
up. Most of
yeah.
most of my exposure had to come through the TV shows because I could. It was a lot easier for me to sneak a TV show than have a book sitting around.
And man, I'm really enjoying the art. As I'm sitting here, I'm just kind of thumbing through it, and it really looks like it's reminiscent of like older comic books. Just kind of a way that if you're if you're watching, you can see this. And sorry for people
Oh
listening,
yeah,
but like there's like the glasses that you don't can't really see eyes through it. It's just glass, shadow.
yeah.
I don't know. It seems like very just reminiscent of just maybe like Silver Age comics, like somewhere in that area.
It's kind of
Um,
kind of kind of a lot of paleness surrounded by bright
yeah,
colors. Yeah.
yeah, and just solid, bright, like a whole wall, with nothing on it. But yeah, this looks super. I'm very curious about this. I didn't read much Goosebumps growing up, because I wasn't super into horror. Um, I was too busy reading like mafia books. I was really into the Godfather. I read that a bunch, and then
I remember you reading those in Taiwan, and I think that
yeah,
wasn't even your first read of it. I
no.
remember you telling me how much you like loved it, and I've never read that book. Um,
No. I've read
I,
the first time I read The Godfather, I was like 15 or 14. Like I was really young. And I remember being at the time being like, I'm real young to be reading this book. Um,
I
but yeah,
actually
it was
think that this is embarrassing. Well,
oh
sort
boy.
of, but it's one of those things for me. When you read the book, that's when it dawned on me that it was like, oh, it was a book before it was a movie.
Yeah.
um,
That's how you learn that
and I was in my
sometimes.
mid 20s at that point, I believe. So,
Well,
but
we all have our time.
it's
But oh
okay
yeah.
to have light bulbs go off and make connections. And
Yeah.
while you tell us about the rest of your pulls, I'm gonna pop open this Living House Brewery Castorini Italian Pilsner.
Oh my goodness. Wow, what a word! Well, what a word salad you just made.
Oh
I
yeah,
have nothing special to drink this week, and I was bummed. I not that last week I had a brisk, so that's nothing special. Maybe I should start getting like artisanal beers, but we don't
why
really have
not?
a place. Because we only have like one craft brewery in town that would potentially have them, and I feel like most of them would just be their own. I'll go check it out. I'm gonna be there tomorrow.
I thankfully work at a place that only like
Oh, that's right.
we have tons and tons of local breweries that we serve. So it's
Yeah.
great.
So that'll be that explains that. So I have, including Stuff of Nightmares, I only have 4 pulls this week. Um,
Lucky.
yeah, yeah.
You're a lot better about keeping your numbers down.
That's a less than half
I'm
of
working on
yours.
it. I'm
Yeah,
working on
it's
it.
you'll get there, buddy. I'm proud of you for, and you told me that you were like all caught up on them, so that's great. Because if
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
pulling as much as you were, I don't think I'd be reading them as much. So good
yeah.
on
No,
you for that.
I'm trying to hit 2 to 3 a day.
Ah, I'm at 1 a day. Wow, look at you. You're a
Yeah.
champion. But yeah, I was in my pull box that got me Shirtless Bear Fighter number 2, but I never read issue number 1, and this is the second arc, and I just didn't feel like um get like just committing to it because that would mean I had to buy the trade paperback, and for all from everything that I've heard, it's really good, but I just and the art seems really good. There's just some jokes. I probably should jump on it. I'm trying. I guess I'm trying to convince myself. But speaking of about something that I don't need to convince myself to read, it is Public Domain number 4 from one of my favorite authors, Chip Zdarsky. And at the end of the last issue, we found out that the dad got the rights back to the comics that he's helped create it, and his son's a writer who's also a gambling addict. So
Yeah.
I think that there's going to be now kind of shifting into this family dynamic and focusing on, um, yeah, how the dad and the son working to get together to continue the story. So that'll be pretty cool to watch that unfold, in my
Yeah.
humble opinion. Um, so this next one I bought issue 1 of sometime back, but uh I don't know if I was just too tired when I read it or was just not feeling it, or it had kind of been spoiled for me a little bit. But I think I missed like what happens in this issue, in the
Okay.
first issue rather. But so this is True Cult from IDW,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
at the I think I had missed this, but at the end, so this guy on the cover, I forget his name at the moment, but he works at this burger shop. Um, he went and robbed a bunch of just shops in a strip mall, and then at the end, I guess he stole something and went back to work, and then a cult shows up and says that he stole the thing from Satan, and I think I missed that line. Um, so
I
uh,
think I think I
I
know a little bit about this because one of the other comic book podcasts, they talked about it.
yeah, the comic book lair. That's what I was
Comic Book
thinking.
Lair, yeah,
Yeah.
they had talked about it, and I don't know if that both of those guys were reading it, but I know
Hmm.
one of them was, and he's really enjoying it from what I understood.
Yeah. Yeah. And so listening to them and enjoy it, a lot of other people I knew enjoyed it. So I was like, well, maybe I just read this wrong. So I'm going to dive back in. We kind of have a rule here that we give at least the number two a try. And then if two
Yeah,
doesn't catches us, then we're kind of off by then. So
yeah.
I'm going to give it a go. It was good writing and everything. I think maybe, I don't know. I don't know. Again, I'm just trying to justify my actions, but I was kind of like, meh, but I'm going to dive
you're
back
you're
in and just,
you're allowed to, you
I
know.
guess that's true. Well, thank you, Mark. You're so supportive. And this last one, I do not. Oh wait, I didn't say any of the creators for that one. So it's Leanna Kangas and Scott
Man,
Breyer Wilson.
you really
I would
pulled a
just,
mark there.
um, yeah, I would just, yeah. So the artists and co-creators, and then the colors is by Gab Contreras. The letters are DC Hopkins, and yeah, I'm yeah, I'm interested to dive back into that. So this last one I
Really
got
cool.
in my pool box, I got this because of just the publisher. I think that this publisher's been putting out good things. We just talked about them a little bit ago, but
Okay.
Scout Comics. Um,
Ah,
yeah, so
yeah,
this is as Asa the Barber, and I don't know much about it, but I was paging through it, and there's this show that my girlfriend was watching on Netflix called She-Ra, and I forget there was like She-Ra. It has a longer name than that, but She-Ra is the name of the character, and the art is very similar to that.
yeah,
And I really enjoyed that show. This looks like it's just about like a, a I don't know, a strong female character in some mythical world that you can see if you're watching. She's riding on some creature. Looks
yeah,
great. Art looks beautiful. This is from Pat Shan, Rio Burton, and Jim Campbell. I definitely have. I know Jim Campbell. I've had that letterer before, but don't know any of these other names. So I'm very excited
yeah.
to go
Well,
into
just
this. Yeah, just looking at this first page, the art looks like absolutely fantastic. Um,
um,
yeah,
so you know She-Ra. So that's that show on Netflix, right?
yes, sir.
Yeah. So that She-Ra's been around since like the mid '80s. Like she was
Yeah,
a
isn't
part of.
she
She's part of the Masters of the Universe.
right?
He-Man,
Um,
He-Man, and the Masters of the Universe.
yeah, it was a very enjoyable show. So I would, I'd recommend to go check that out
I
if I
can't.
was used.
I think my wife and son watched that show. I think it was that. No, 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 no. Because Netflix also rebooted Voltron, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. So that they watched
are you
through
thinking
that.
of Ultron?
Maybe.
Well, you gotta. Well, it's. I'm sure it's something, but let's get into some a comic. It feels like it's been a long time since you and I have been able to talk about a comic that we both read and both
Yeah.
really enjoyed. I feel like most of the time it's either we both read something and one of us didn't like it and the other one did.
Yeah. Well, and this one, I would also say that we were both kind of getting a little bit down on the previous issues before this, um, which yeah, like we talked about it last week because I think we may have forecasted that this was coming up, or no, we it was in our
Hmm.
pull list last week, so we talked about it. The last
Right.
two issues were
Which we want to say what it is.
no, not yet. We're
Not
building
yet.
up. We got to
Building
do a
up.
build up.
There we
Um,
go.
but
Everyone
yeah,
ready?
everybody okay. Yeah, they're ready. Uh, but yeah, it was just it had been pretty much all rise through the first two volumes. I would say, like, I really enjoyed the first two volumes. Minus an issue or two
Mhm.
in each one, or sorry, an issue from each one. But like for the most part, I really solidly like them all. And then the last two issues of, we can say it now, of Silver
The
Coin,
silver coin.
the Silver Coin. Um,
Number
they
14.
they were kind of dips, and we've talked about dips. They happen,
Mhm.
and like I wouldn't say they're necessarily bad, but they just did not, like, I don't know.
They didn't
They
have,
didn't.
like, the same weight or gravitas
Yeah,
as some of the
I was
older ones.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And so I was plumb surprised by this one. It was and because it was so like real too, because
Mm.
we all went through it.
Do you wanna set up the premise? Because I think it's a
Well,
beautiful
I
well,
think
he
it,
yeah. Here's what I'll
it
say.
yeah,
So, the subtitle of this is called The Bad Year, and it takes place in 2020.
which
Now, I
was
can
a bad
be
year for everyone.
Yes, sir. So I can be very jaded when it comes to media that's set in that year because I feel like it might be easy to just kind of like you were saying, like ride off of the emotions that we all had and kind of raw whatever and just going with that. But I feel like this story that was told so wonderfully and so like it weaved such a like fantastic I wanna say beautiful narrative, but it doesn't seem right given the, like, content of the story, but
Yeah,
it was utilized so well. Um,
yeah,
so just to set it up, the silver coin is about a coin that's cursed, and it goes from person to person and just causes mayhem, uh, and s the the beginning of this issue, we kind of feel like it's set in a hospital, and it's a guy trying to track down his uh, girlfriend. Is that how what it was? It felt like it was a hospital to
as,
me at
yeah.
the beginning, but it wasn't a hospital. It was just a house. So I think that was I might have just been wrong. But, so he finds somebody it's essentially this guy going through this crazy house or hospital or whatever the hell it is, and also having flashbacks to the year 2020. And it
Yeah,
goes further back in the year with him and his partner's relationship and the rising in tension, of living together and having to deal with all the stresses of 2020.
yeah,
And what I would say is that I think one of the things that really grabbed us in the first couple arcs of this comic is something that I didn't realize that wasn't really utilized well in these later ones was the fact that the the coin really kind of brings out the evilness in a person. It
yeah,
doesn't, like, really put him into a trance. I mean, I guess it does put him into a trance, but it seems to be, like, that's in there, and it just becomes, like, an amplifier, like, aimed in the direction of the worst possible outcome. Does that make
right.
sense?
Yeah,
And I feel like a lot of the comics that were recent didn't really have that same, like, "Here's the ugliness within me" so much. It was just kind of maybe more masked in the world. I don't know. What do you think I'm right? What are you thinking?
uh, yeah, yeah. I mean, you're on track. I would
Mm,
say with where I'm at with it, but it was just like for me. Um, I think I think it just did a really good job of like wrapping up what 2020 represented to everybody with COVID, the pandemic, and just even here in America with just like what was going on with like politics. Um,
mhm.
and it was just a terrible, terrible year. And like things that we know that happened over the pandemic is most of us were locked in our houses essentially with you know, if we lived with roommates, we probably had fights with our roommates. If we lived with our nuclear family like I do, like things were just always rough because there wasn't like an escape from people. And it kind of
Mhm.
seems like the main character just could never really like deal with like the rejection or his like world being flipped upside down. And
Yeah.
like I don't even think the coin made an appearance in this issue until like the near end.
Yeah, pretty much I
And
think it's, like, in it, like, 1 or 2 panels even.
when it does make its appearance, it's like, okay, it makes sense like why this guy is like going nuts, because like his desire was to keep his relationship going with like his fiance or his girlfriend, whatever, whoever it
Mhm.
was. But like, and like you said, it has flashbacks to like when the pandemic started, and they're trying to figure out, like, she had lost her job because like, I think she's an actor, and production
Hmm.
shut down, and so she's trying to find other jobs to do, but they weren't doing movie making and show making during that time, and so it was hard for her. But then he was a writer, and he's expected to like write, and it just kept like this joining of their like their world of making movies. It kind of it showed how they went through their struggle of like she couldn't be a part of this anymore, and she needed to like move on, and his desire was to like hold on to it.
Yeah.
And it also seemed for like he had a veil over his face that could never be lifted.
Yeah.
He wasn't seeing the world for like what it really was, and he couldn't escape the reality that he was in.
Yeah.
If that
Yeah,
if that
and so I mean, yeah, that's very reminiscent of that year, I would believe. But yeah, I love it, man. This was honestly like my favorite for a while. I really loved the diner one, but yeah, I'm super stoked on this.
Yeah. Um
So, I would assume next week is going to be a like one of the stories about the priest, the covenant guy. So I'm excited to
yeah,
or
well,
not next week, next issue.
next month, yeah. Which, yeah, that'll come out a month from now, and then I hope Silvercoin keeps going.
Yeah, I
Because
feel like it will.
the other thing that I really like about it too, and because normally you'll see something where it's like same writer, different artist, issue to issue, but this one's flipped where it's different writer and same artist every issue.
Mhm.
And I I can say too that I've just become a very big fan of Walsh's art, because he's just
Mhm.
so acute in his drawing of these stories written by other people, but you can tell that they're all still just set in the same world.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
and
and I couldn't imagine not reading these comics with that art. It just wouldn't be the same thing.
yeah,
Um, and I was gonna put this in my post about it, and maybe I did, I can't remember, but it wouldn't feel right for me to not have this in my pool box once a month, because I've
yeah,
just been so accustomed to for the last year, over the last year,
yeah,
probably a year and a half of just having this there every month or every other month, and it's
yeah.
it's it's so good.
Let's see. The series started back in April of 2021. So yeah, it's been a year and a half.
Yeah, wow, look at me, right, being right on the dot. I calculated breaks in there. I'm like, they probably took breaks in between arcs. Oh man, I'm proud of myself for
Ooh,
that one. But
way to
yeah,
go.
one last thing that I'll say is I really liked when they did the flashbacks that the border changed to white. Most of the time, the
Oh yeah,
border in this comic is black, and I thought
yeah,
that was like kind of like when they fade away in like a show, and it's like that white light. That's what thought it was like
yeah.
referencing with that.
There's like a different like glimmer
Yeah,
to
and it was cool
flashbacks
to
and
see,
shows.
his art in that, uh, with a white border around it. I thought that was cool,
Yeah,
for some reason. But, uh, are you gonna do a comic now, or am I doing a comic now? I think it's you, correct? Yeah.
yeah. It's me.
Yeah,
I'm
it's a
I'm your
me,
guy.
Markio.
Yeah, I'm gonna start off with this little number right here by Kevin Smith. So this is Maskerade.
Alright.
Um, I w- again another celebrity in comics, and Kevin Smith is just he's like a pop culture like mastermind. He's just soaked it in his whole life, and it's very evident in any movie that you've seen of his. Just you'll see just different tidbits of comic book lore throughout his
Mhm.
films.
Oh, yeah.
So it's cool to see him like writing one. I haven't read anything by him previously, so I'm not sure if he's done anything before.
Yeah, Kevin Smith's done a decent amount of stuff.
Oh
He's
yeah,
done
oh yeah. No, I'm looking at his list right now.
Yeah. I feel
Yeah,
like it's been a while since he's done anything, but I could be wrong because I just like you, I haven't read much of his stuff.
he seemed like he was pretty busy in like the 2010s. Is that what you call him?
Yeah, 20
Like
aughts. The aughts.
he's got a lot of DC stuff around like 2014. Oh, and there's a Clerks comic book. I didn't know that.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I didn't know that either.
But anyway, so Maskerade, it was just like really exciting, and they did a really good job because you see this in movies. Like you'll see, um, I guess, kind of like with Game of Thrones. Let's go there. When Game of Thrones first started, you're starting off with different story arcs through the different families. And you're seeing, and like that changes from like shot to shot, and like none of these families have like met yet or anything of that nature, I guess. And in Masquerade, it starts off with like we get introduced to, I think, three different characters who are not in the same place or necessarily have any ties to each other yet.
Mm-hmm.
And then it takes a turning point in the middle of it with the introduction of the character on the cover here that's slashing away at people. Um,
Slasher, no slashing.
yeah, she's slashing away. Um, but it was very exciting, and it again, like I mentioned earlier, like I like when a comic book feels cinematic, and I wouldn't expect anything less from Kevin Smith and his writing to make his comic books also seem cinematic.
Yeah.
And it just read straight through. I felt like I was kind of present in the scenes or in the panels, and
See, even
yeah,
call them
it
scenes.
I called them scenes. Thanks, Kevin Smith, for confusing me. Um, but yeah, it's co-written with gosh dang it, what's his name? Andy McElfresh.
Okay.
And then the artist for it is John Sprengelmeyer, and the colorist was Julia Brusco. But yeah, it was a great start. I'm excited for the next issue because it was, I would say that everything that happened in it was just like a short amount of time in the first issue.
Yeah.
Um, like probably like, there was like spans of time in the issue that it obviously like jumped over to get to a different place with a different character. But by the end of it, you're just like, okay, I know why it's called Masquerade. I understand the character that's on the cover, and and like you talk about a lot, and I agree with you about how when a cover can tell you what's going on in the story,
Mm-hmm.
it did a really good job of that. So her slashing away like that becomes a thing later on in the issue. That's just like, oh man, this person means business. And but it is a story of just seeking vengeance, uh, which is really nice because I'll get to it later because I want you to be able to talk about something. But I some vengeance has been had in
Oh,
another series that I'm reading. So
that's
um,
fantastic.
but yeah, I would recommend anybody who is a fan of Kevin Smith go ahead and pick this one up, give it a read through. But it also might be worth waiting for the trade paperback because there's clearly like a plan, and it's a short series. It's also, this is the other thing that's really cool. This is the first issue under the imprint of Secret Stash Press.
Okay.
So Kevin Smith owns a comic book shop, and I think he owns it with the guy who plays Jay. Uh,
Okay. Maybe.
and it's called Secret Stash. So their comic book store is called Secret Stash.
Yeah.
And so now they have Secret Stash Press. So we can expect more coming out of Kevin Smith in the future, but it
Yeah.
is an imprint under Dark Horse. So
Okay. That's cool.
yeah.
Good on him. That seems like it would be something that would be under Dark Horse. Um, yeah. That sounds very good. Are you a big Kevin Smith movie guy?
Um, in high school, everything that had come out probably up to the point of me reaching my early 20s, I had watched all of his films like almost religiously. Like I love Dogma. Like that's one of my
Yeah.
favorites. All of the Clerks ones, like the original Clerks is just, a legendary film. Uh Clerks 2 is okay, but
Yeah.
Jay and Silent Bob just they crack me up. So,
Yeah.
and they're
Well, uh maybe one day we'll have to dive into some Kevin Smith comics, and
yeah,
especially if he has his own press coming out,
yeah.
publication coming out. So I would like to chat about one of my favorite series that I've read in a while, Dark Beach. This is number 6 that I'm holding in my hand, which, if you watched last week, you saw And this is the conclusion of the first volume. I posted something on my Instagram about this, so if you want to go over there and check that out, you can do that. Or you can just keep listening and I'll talk about it here. But
Yeah.
so Dark Beach is a comic from Michael J. Rutsunger. Artist is Sebastian Perez. The colors is Ray Johnson. Letters is Micah Myers. And the design is Angelica Biney. And I feel like I've been doing a really bad job of like telling what the story is because it was kind of confusing for me. Partly that was just
For Dark Beach.
yeah. Um, it just felt like I guess I was too long between drinks and I would kind of forget, or the premise was just kind of muddled. But here it is. Here I'm going to tell the story real quick of Dark Beach. And so the premise is that 300 years ago, the Earth was rocketed away because the sun started shooting out solar flares that were killing a lot of people. So a vast majority of the population died. The true number was never really disclosed, and then they rocketed off into a safe distance. They have all artificial lights and sun and all that stuff, and the population is like incredibly low, like less than 100,000, I think. So like super duper low. Um, and there's this kind of conspiracy theorist group that exists called like True Sunners or something like that. Or no, Sun Freaks. That's what they're called. They're called Sun Freaks because they're obsessed with the sun, and they had a theory because of people that were working. So in the group there was people who were working for like major tech companies, people who were working for influencers and nightclubs, and they kind of had all their ears to the ground trying to figure out what the truth behind the story was. And it turns out that 300 years ago that the super elites started shooting rockets into the sun to try to use the power of the sun for something, and inadvertently started killing a bunch of people because of all the solar rays that they were emitting. And so that's when some scientists came up with the plan to move the earth, and they moved the earth, and then they changed the story to make it look like the sun had just started doing this randomly, not that people were behind this and caused this. So it was very interesting to kind of watch this story unfold. And in the back, so the main character that we're following, his name's Gordo. And in the background is this story with his mother, who was part of this organization that were, I don't know, just doing tests on whatever. And they were the organization that built the rockets to get them away from the sun. So there's something that happens throughout this comic that's hinted like every couple of issues, and then in the last one it's a big reveal. And honestly, I kind of wasn't paying attention to it because it was so like just like how do you say that, just like casually put in. I felt like there
Yeah.
I read number 6 and then I went back and reread the whole comic. So I saw it a lot more clear there. And I realize now in hindsight that there were just whole pages dedicated to this thing, but I just didn't register because I was so interested in the story of him trying to uncover the truth of how they ended up where they were. But it's a great comic, great art, great story, great concept. Well done to the team. In issue 3 at the end, and then issue 4 completely, the art changes because it is no longer following Gordo as the main person, but it's following the Sun Freaks and his mother. So there's different art, and I thought that the art may have been a little jarring of a juxtaposition of the kind of art that was seemed to be setting up the world, but I understood it's what it was trying to do, and I appreciated it. But I've been rambling about this for far too long. But this is a damn good comic. So if you are into damn good comics, this is from Behemoth, and I'm sure that there's a trade paperback. And how it ends, man, I really want to tell you because I think you would really love the premise. So I would encourage you, my friend Mark, to go and get the my pal, to go and get the trade paper book for that. I think that'd be great. Trade
Okay.
paperback, not trade
Well,
paper book.
it is a trade paperback book.
Mm,
Yeah, the
not
TPB,
wrong.
TPBB.
All right, but I heard you say something about a righteous thirst for something.
Well, yeah. Well, I just talked about vengeance being had, but it was a righteous thirst for vengeance, and
Right.
the thirst has been quenched. I'll
Oh
put it there.
boy.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah. So we thought this was the last one, right?
um,
Or not the last one,
no,
the beginning of a
this
new arc.
I thought, yeah. So I was mistaken when I had seen that the release date for Volume 2 had come out, and I thought I had read that it collected issues 6 through 10, but apparently it's going to collect issues 6 through 11, which
Mm,
is why I made the mistake of assuming that issue 11 was the start of a new arc. But it is the cap, it is the finish, and I don't care if you're a comic book fan, a fan of movies, or just a fan of good stories and reading an old book. Like, to me, this is something that anybody who picks up and reads, like, they will enjoy it.
mm.
It is just, it was so well written that I don't know how the team of Rick Remender and Andre Lima Arahu, I think that's how you say his last name.
Mm.
Um, I don't know how they're going to top it. And Andre is somebody who's like reached out to me a couple times, just appreciating posts that I do about a righteous thirst for vengeance,
Hmm.
I've read oh man, I'm blanking. They're shoot, not Deadly
You got
Class.
this. Uh,
Um,
Is it another comic by them?
yeah, they have another comic out that no, it was Deadly Class. Deadly Class is available on Comixology, and I had read through that, and that was one that they did. I don't know if it's still going,
Mm,
but I mean that there's yeah, oh no, it is still going, because the next issue comes out in October. Wow. But yeah, so there's 56 issues. Well, 55 in total have been released.
Jesus.
And so I read through the first volume, um, and it had like kind of the same real intensity, but it was still a little bit more fantastical with Deadly Class.
Mm,
Whereas like A Righteous Thirst for Vengeance just felt real in every sense of the word to me. Like, I've mentioned so many times how like just I've read issue 1 a lot because I just got sucked into it. Like, you see that first panel and you can hear just the soundtrack of what's going on in that panel. You can hear birds chirping, you can hear waves crashing against the shore, you can hear the cars roaming through the city and the people chatting. Like, they did such a good job with, well, Andre did such a great job with his art to capture that story and deliver it in such a real, like, cinematic, I'm in this scene way.
mm,
Um and so yeah, so this last one, I'm just going to go ahead and kind of reveal the story a little bit, but
sure.
essentially what happens is there's this guy named Sonny who we meet in issue 1, and he ended up dying in issue 10.
Oh.
It was kind of a shocker because it built up to this scene where he's fighting this guy who's chasing after him and this kid Xavier that he's been kind of protecting and taking care of.
Mm.
And like the way that that happened is that uh, there's this gross old like Oswald Cobblepot meets Jabba the Hutt type
Oh,
character, who, you know, just
sounds slimy.
rich money bag guy who you know, has a lot of shady secrets but tries to keep a good image in the public eye.
Mm.
And he had put out a hit on this boy and his mother.
Oh,
But
goodness.
you don't actually learn about him until a couple issues down the road. But Sonny stumbles across the ad for this hit on the dark web by accident, and so he goes there to see what's going on, and he ends up like getting the mom and the boy out, and the mom ends up dying, and Xavier and Sonny just go on this, you know, quest of getting to safety and somewhere safe. Um, and so then when the second volume started, it was like, okay, Sonny and Xavier have like found a place to hide, a place to be safe. but no, it doesn't happen. They get found, and Sonny literally fights to the death protecting Xavier, and Xavier ends
Jeez.
up getting away at the end of issue 10, and then issue 11 here over my shoulder. It picks up 10 years after the initial story of the first 10 issues.
Mm.
And we this is where we learn so much more about this bastard that put out the hit in the first place, and
Hmm.
Xavier is the one who ends up having vengeance on this man.
Oh.
um and they're like, and so this issue revealed so many of the questions that you were left wondering and pondering about in the first 10 issues. Like, why is this a righteous thirst for vengeance? I was always asking that question of who's having vengeance here, because it's not like it's Batman, you know. Like, um but no, this is by far my favorite comic book series I've ever read. um
Wow.
and
That's high praise.
I'm really sad that it is over.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to see where this team goes next. I know that Andre told me he has something coming out soon. Um, Let me
Oh,
just
you
get
gotta
back to
make sure
that.
that you stay on that. I mean, I guess it's sad that it's ending, but hey, at least it ended well, and like it seemed to wrap up really, really nicely. Is that true?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
it it came. It was the full package, man. It even had a bow on it. Like, it was.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. um. Sorry. Let me. You can go on to what you would like
Sure.
to chat about while I figure out what it is that I'm
Oh, what
looking
that he
for.
was saying was next.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is one of the pools that I had last week, and a comic that I picked up issue 1 and 2 of off the shelf. So this is the first time that I picked it up on a fresh week where it was new, and it is Above Snakes, issue 3. And man, um, there's a reason that there's a vulture here on the cover, and it's a lot of fun. So this
Okay.
story is about following a outlaw named Dirt, who uh, he is seeking vengeance for his dead wife, who are killed by the Above Snakes gang. That's where that name comes from. So in the first issue, he kills a couple of the members. In the second issue, he kind of starts to fall in love with this girl, but then realizes that, he's still the whole reason he's doing what he's doing is because he's avenging his dead wife. So if he was to fall in love with a girl, then that would kind of defeat the purpose of what he's doing. And it would just seem like he's just killing out of spite or something like that. So, but with him this whole time, and I should say this is written by Sean Lewis, art by Hayden Sherman, and lettering by Hassan Atzman Alou. Uh, Hayden Sherman is definitely becoming one of my favorite artists. I absolutely love this. But you can see here, this is one of my favorite panels, but there is a vulture in this story, and it's like a ghost vulture, and it has been following him ever since his wife died. And so it essentially represents like his guilt, his shame, or like the burden that he feels like he has to carry, and like the task that he needs to complete, the responsibility that he bears to some degrees. And so
Okay.
this issue is mostly just focused on the relationship between those two, and the dynamic thereof. And so in that image that I was just holding up, the bird has a hat on and a cane, and he's working on his fertility dance because he wants to go out and find another death vulture to live its life with. Um, and so it's
Huh.
fun. He's going throughout the story, and he hears another bird, and so he starts doing his dance and singing a song, and it turns out to be this giant other death vulture, and it chases him down, and it turns out to be another guy who has been screwed over by the Above Snakes gang. It's his like guilt and burden and
Okay.
responsibility vulture. And so it's
Huh.
like much bigger, and he's like, "Hey, you need to stay out of my way because this is my responsibility. I need to go and I feel like this might be a little bit of a spoiler, but not like just the reveal of that guy. But I just thought that that was a beautiful It's just such a fascinating storytelling device because so many times when we're presented with narratives, especially ones about vengeance, the hero or the main person is kind of seen as like the person who has been like screwed out the hardest, or like done the most wrong to. But here you meet somebody who's had like clearly has been screwed over more than just their wife dying. It seemed like he lost his whole family and maybe some of his town or something like that. I can't really remember.
Huh.
But so it'll be interesting going forward to see how like, how he's going to migrate trying to take out this gang. Because somebody else is trying to do it. And it's kind of revealed in this issue that the vulture won't go away until he avenges his wife. Um,
Okay.
yeah, so I think he's trying to get rid of the vulture. He wants it to get married off. That's why he's like helping him do its fertility dance and all that stuff.
What was it that got you on Above Snakes again?
The art, it was the team. I well, so I had known Hayden Sherman from because I believe that he did Chicken Devils or Chicken Devil and Chicken Devils, but Sean Lewis I don't think
Which
did.
is
I can't.
Chicken Devils is coming out soon.
It sure is.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I saw this on the shelf and realized that it was a Western based thing, and I was like, I love Westerns. I love Herman Sherman's art. So yeah, I picked it up and I'm really happy that I jumped on it. It's from Image, so that's usually like a good sign of quality. But
Yeah.
yeah, I really want to go back. I probably won't do it tonight. I think I'm telling myself that I will. This actually made up on my wall. It's up there at the top. You can't really see it, but yeah, I've been really enjoying this. I'm probably gonna go back and reread those first two issues and just see
Nice.
what they're all about. But I've been rambling so long about this comic. Do you got
That's good,
any?
man.
Yeah,
Well,
man, I've
real
been
quick
loving it.
before I get back to my next one, I just want to go back to Andre's next work that came out today. It came out
Oh,
today. I wasn't able to get it because I wasn't able to put it on a list to order.
mm,
But it's called Phenomena Volume One: The Golden City of Eyes, and it's a hardcover trade paperback, so it's a
oh,
direct,
damn,
like, so there's no issues coming out for it.
yeah,
Um,
it's like straight to
but
DVD.
but the big deal about this one here, and why it's a big deal for Andre to be working on this one, is that it's
Mm.
with the writer of Phenomena is Brian Michael Bendis.
Oh wow,
Yeah. And I mean, what Andre, like when Andre, I had just asked him, like, what do you have coming out next? Um, he seems pretty excited about this one coming out.
yeah. I
So
mean,
I'm gonna,
Brian Michael Bendis is
I mean,
fantastic.
he's
He was the first
if you
comic I
read
ever read.
if you read Marvel in the early 2000s, you read his work.
Yes.
I mean, not that he is limited to that, but he in the 2000s he had his hands on the Avengers, he had his hands on
Hmm.
Daredevil, Spider-Man.
Hmm.
He even did the Alias comics. Like, Alias was a TV show that was popular. Apparently, he
Yeah.
did the comics for that. He also worked with House of M, which is one of the greatest runs of Marvel, I think, ever.
Yeah.
Did you ever read House of M?
Yes, sir. I read it
Yeah,
twice.
yeah, and he
And
also
I
had
know
his
I read it
hands.
twice because like halfway through it, I'm like, oh yeah, I read this already.
Yeah, but he
Um,
also had his hands on Secret Invasion. I believe it was so there was the original Secret Invasion, then they did another one which didn't do so well, and then they did a third one, and I
mm,
think Bendis did the third one. Um,
I'm not sure. Your guess
hmm.
is as good as mine.
Well, there's only one way to really
Well,
find
why
out.
don't I mean we can I feel like there's at least once an episode where I have to be like, we don't have to look it up, Mark. It's okay.
I I do.
Okay.
We can
Um,
keep talking. I'm looking right now.
sure.
Like, as we chat.
Um, well, yeah. Yeah, I'm Michael. Like I said, Michael Brian Bendis was he was the author of the first comic that I ever read. So yeah, I definitely think that anything he's putting his hand on is probably pretty golden. What are you
Pretty.
finding out there?
Nothing yet. Other than apparently Marvel's doing another Secret Invasion that's starting.
Really, another one?
Yeah,
Oh
it's
boy,
gonna issue one comes out in November.
huh?
So this will be the fourth Secret Invasion.
Yeah, something like that. Jesus, Jeebers Canebers.
Jeebers Kniebers, that's what they say.
Yeah. Well,
uh,
what
Go
do you?
on.
No, I'm waiting on you.
Oh yeah, because I have one more to talk about, huh?
Yep.
Yeah. So this next one I'm going to talk about is probably the series that's going to replace my excitement level over Righteous Thirst for Vengeance.
Oh, there
And
you
you
go.
you can see it over my left shoulder here by Darth Vader,
Good old,
right there.
yep.
It's called The Calculated Man. Um, I have thoroughly enjoyed this one just because it's the story of Jack Beans, and Jack Beans used to be the accountant for this mafia called the Keys family, and he was in WITSEC, Witness Protection Program,
Mm,
because he decided to he wanted to get out of like the mafia business, and he knew the only way he could do that was like you know turning a 180 and going to the feds.
yeah.
But he also knew in that time, and this is talked about a lot more in this issue 3, is he's like, my entire time in WITSEC, I have been training for this day, because issue 1 basically starts off with uh, one of the guys of the Keys family has found Jack Beans, and Jack Beans, disposes of him, we'll say.
Mm,
But it has now sent Jack Beans on this quest of like, the only way that I get to live my life is by wiping out the entire Keys family. Jack Beans doesn't forget anything. He has a perfect memory, so he can remember. If you asked him where he was on a Tuesday back in 2014, like in an October, he could tell you every single one of those Tuesdays. He give you a little bit more.
yeah.
Um, but like, so he has a perfect memory. He's a mathematician, and he calculates out everything to near perfection.
Mm,
But he also knows as a mathematician that perfection cannot be attained. And so in this one, though, like in the previous issue, his witness protection program U.S. Marshal agent found out what he's been up to, and so
mm.
now in this issue, he also has the U.S. Marshals chasing after him, as well as the Keys family.
Oh boy.
And Jack Beans's introduction in issue 3 is just like absolutely perfect, because the marshals are like having a meeting about like, okay, this guy plans out everything. He knows the routes that you take home from work. He knows where you go on Sunday afternoons. He knows everything about you, and so we have to be clever in the way that we take him in. And while like the main agent is like on the phone, like you know discoursing about this plan, Jack Beans pulls up next to him on a motorcycle, like while kids are getting off of a school bus. like and and so then he just tells him like, yeah, like we're not really, he's like, or the agent tells him like, Jack, we're like enemies now, right? And he's like, well, we don't have to be. Like, I'm just trying to live my life, and at that we're both Americans. And then he just drives off. And then it goes into more details of like what he's doing. And then on the other side of it is that he has like this, he has a girlfriend,
Oh,
and his girlfriend thinks that they're like role playing. And this is another thing about Jack Beans, is that he can't lie. he
okay.
like he can't bring himself to tell a lie. He has to tell the truth.
Yeah.
So whenever he is presented with hard questions, he's able to like walk his way around it
Yeah.
without lying. But uh, whenever he's on the phone with his girlfriend, they're role playing where he's an ex accountant of the mafia who's trying to kill the entire mafia, and she plays like an exotic dancer, but she's actually, I think, like a caretaker or
Oh,
something.
that's so
Um,
funny.
so there's also that little hinge there on what's going on. I'm not sure if this series is an ongoing one, or if it's just being told in like 4 or 5 issues.
Mm,
I hope it goes on a little bit longer, but given the premise that he's trying to kill an entire crime family that's trying to kill him, and he's also running from the marshals, I kind of think that this is going to wrap up in just a 4 or 5 issue series.
okay.
But it has been very, very thrilling for me. So
Yeah. That sounds like that would be very enjoyable. So, good job there.
the
Um,
best, well, like the best part too was just like at the end of it when he has like it's revealed he has like a therapy turtle.
Oh,
And
that's
so
pretty cool.
but he's just like sitting by a pool with his turtle, feeding the turtle strawberries, just talking about how like intimidating it is to like figure out how to tell his girlfriend the truth and to take care of all the stuff that he's handling, which is like a lot.
Yeah.
But he's just handling it nonchalantly, talking to his turtle, feeding it strawberries. This issue wrapped up very well for me.
Man, and that's from Aftershock, right?
It is from Aftershock, yes.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna have to get the trade paperback because I've been hearing a lot of really good things about that.
Yeah, and so that is let me get the creators their due justice. But this is written by Paul Tobin, and the artist is Alberto Jimenez Albuquerque.
Okay.
Yeah,
You,
I haven't read anything else by these guys, so it's my
yeah, it seems
introduction
like
to them.
they're a good team.
Yeah, well, and like that's the other thing too. Alberto's art, it's fairly cartoony.
Mm,
Um, which I think kind of helps dissociate from the potential reality of the situation. Um,
right,
but the way that he draws the art and the way that it is colored and laid out, it does a really good job of just gripping you and keeping you in there. So
right.
I'm never going through the issue being like, wait, I need to go back a couple panels and figure out what's going on. Like I just feel like I can flip through it. So
Nice.
yeah.
That sounds like a fun read for you, bud. And you know what was a fun read for me? I'm gonna just talk about one last one if you don't mind, real quick.
Yeah, what is it? Tell me.
Uh, so this is a comic that's Comixology exclusive. It is called Census. I pulled up the cover on my phone right there. And I posted about this on my Instagram again, and I I I just thought this was such a fun comic. It was like funny. It was kind of quick in like the good way of just like it jumped right into the story. It wasn't like beating around the bush a lot. But the premise is that this gentleman, I forget the name of. Oh, and I'm sorry. Let me just say this real quick. Um, the the writer is Mark Bernardin, and the art is by Adam Freeman, and the colors are by Sebastian Pires, who also did the art on Dark Beach.
Oh,
So yeah,
okay.
get double dipping on him this week, which is great because I really enjoy his stuff. But oh, it follows a guy named Liam Malone. Here, I'll just read this real quick. Liam Malone is a poli sci major with a minor in communication who's searching for his first real job. While riding the bus in NYC, he sees a sign that says "Good pay, flexible hours, no experience necessary." So he heads on over for an interview and gets a job working for the Census Bureau. But he quickly learns that this is no ordinary Census Bureau; it is the Otherworld Census Bureau, and he's got to count and register all the Dajin, Chanlings, and other supernatural beings, changelings, and other supernatural beings living in New York. So in the first issue, he goes to a house of succubuses, and he's a virgin, so they're trying to sacrifice him because his blood would be more pure. And I'm going to just kind of spoil this for you, but one of the succubus is kind of feeling sympathetic for him. So she throws him a bone, if you know what I mean, so that his blood is no longer as pure, and then her sisters won't want to sacrifice him. So he says
Okay.
something along the lines of about he didn't expect to lose his virginity by a sympathetic succubus, and I thought that that was a great line. Um, but yeah, this is a really fun comic. I was really hoping that there was going to be out another one today, but I'm pretty sure it just came out like last week, issue number 1. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to more of this. Comixology has some really great stuffs on there, and I know it's owned by a bad company, but there's a lot of really good artists on there and good stories being told. So
Yeah.
definitely swing on over there.
Yeah.
Um,
One
but
other thing
sure, let's hear
I
one
wanted to
other
give it.
thing.
I don't. You can stop me if I already talked about this, but we already talked about Chip Zdarsky because of public domain.
Mm-hmm.
And then last weekend was Batman weekend or Batman Day. Saturday was Batman Day,
Right.
and so I took that day to actually read the Chip Zdarsky Batman issues
Mm.
that I have acquired at your behest as
At
well.
my behest.
At your behest. And Man, I can see why you like Zdarsky so much.
Mm,
I mean, I do have a few of his things, but like I don't have anything of his that was, I don't know, nothing of like, Calculated Man or uh of A Righteous Thirst for Vengeance. Anything
right.
of Zdarsky's I have is like something from DC or Marvel.
Yeah.
Um but yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I hated finishing the last issue of Batman that he wrote because I just wanted to already have the next one in hand.
Mm.
So uh so thank you for introducing me. Well,
It's
yeah,
it it's what we're here for. It's to
that's what we're
recommend
here
each
for.
other comics, good
That
comics. That's
that
that's
that is
why
that
we do
is
what it is.
that's why we do what we do.
I
Not
think I
all
said that's
not
why we do
all
what it is.
that's not all heroes wear capes.
Not all capes wear heroes.
Yep.
Um, but I think at this point we're probably ready to land the bird.
We are ready to land the bird. I just want to give a thank you to our friend Anthony for letting us use his little platform here so we can do
Yeah.
this podcast. And
Thank you, buddy.
but yeah, we'll be back next week. I got more to read again because I just keep
Quickly,
stacking up
just
my
make sure that
stack.
you
Yeah.
go over to Anthony's YouTube page. I'm sure he would love that. Anthony Blackwell Jr. Go out. He's been posting stuff over there, so make sure that you give him a subscribe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, Anthony is a great dude. I'm excited for his new venture into his new podcast and just how malleable it is for him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's the like I guess another way, because I mean you know him a lot better than I do, like a lot better. But it just seems to me that this new venture he's going on, this is his clay to play with and
Yeah,
mold,
for sure.
and so I'm excited for him. So yeah, go over to his uh, Anthony Blackwell Jr. page on YouTube, give him a follow. He has I think he's on all the platforms, so you can give him a follow
Hmm.
on Instagram and all those
Twitch,
things. Twitch, yeah.
Facebook, Instagram, like it's all
It,
there.
he's everywhere.
And so are we, right, Mark?
We are too. You can give us a like and a follow on Instagram and Twitter, and you can follow us for our podcast here on YouTube, or it'll be on Facebook or Twitch. And I think, oh, and we do also have a TikTok that I need to post to today.
You'll get there, buddy.
We'll
It's
get
still
there.
early out there in Oregon.
Yeah, it's still early here. But, anyways, thank you everybody for joining us today. And if you're listening later, thank you for taking the time to listen. We will be back next week with more comics to talk about and more exciting things down the way.
Yeah. Heck
So,
yeah.
so I raise a glass to you to finish my delicious beer and
I
cheers.
will I will raise this mug that has a lighthouse and some seagulls on it to you.
Oh, I
Wow.
heard this. I can hear the seagulls.
That's my impression of a seagull, everybody. And
And they're
good
landing. Goodbye.
and bye.